working with the Chief Minister of Maharashtra is a privilege, and you gave up when you were at the height of that.
Someone who leaves IAS, किसको पागल कुत्ते ने काटा है? But ऐसी बात नहीं है. We are still continuing essentially the system that the British designed. Civil servants then were supposed to be rulers. That ruler mentality has still not gone.
कौन है असली उत्तराधिकारी बाल ठाकरे के विजन का?
जमीन पर काम करने वाले जो MLAs भी हों, they knew that actually Shiv Sena MLA space is reducing. They were always in contact with Eknath Shinde. So actually the day he left, he might have actually saved Shiv Sena.
Do you think Anna got waylaid, or do you think that the others misused Anna?
I have always been very close to Anna Hazare. Right since he returned from army, he was sort of ending up by being used by different political outfits.
The role of Savarkar, he has become a controversial figure. Everybody has a different take.
The man who completely dedicated his life in the totally selfless way, organized even armed struggle against the British, paid the price by spending over a decade at Andaman. But you want to disagree, it is still okay. But at least honor his dedication. Everything Savarkar touched is great.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching or listening to another edition of the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. This episode is being filmed in the city of Mumbai. My guest today is Mr. Avinash Dharmadhikari, who has authored several books and mentored students who went on to join the civil service. Mr. Dharmadhikari has been working in the field of career guidance and personality development, so our conversation today is centered on those topics. Avinashji, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and speaking with us. Your career span has been extremely interesting before and after. We shall discuss your books. You have authored several books, two of which we'll discuss today. But before we come to this, the books, why did you decide to, first question is that why did you decide to leave the IAS? Why did you quit the IAS? Because right now, you know, the civil services, so many popular films being made on that, so much talk about corruption in the system, everybody wanting to get in. So there's a lot of focus on the UPSC exams. So here I have a person who got into the IAS and decided to leave the IAS at some point of time and do something else with his career. So tell me your journey about how you got into the IAS, why you left the IAS.
I will take this opportunity to thank you first. More than thanks, also wish you all the best.
Thank you.
It's my very happy to be here, happy to be talking to you. Now, why I left has to do with why I joined. So first of all, sort of one-line summary will be, there were lots of plans at the time of leaving. Some of them didn't work. But one plan was to get into education. That has worked. Now, before even joining for 11 years, I was a full-time activist of a Pune-based organization. I was also freelance journalist. For those 11 years, I also participated in various movements.
Such as?
Such as the farmers' movement under Sharad Joshi, or the anti-Bangladeshi infiltrators movement in Assam.
You're talking about the 80s now?
I'm talking of 80s. Same time when the initial Khalistan movement exploded in Punjab. Also the same time when Kashmir separatism had just begun. So those are the years I was working as a full-time activist, while I was having my own formal education on one side. It is those years of activism that made me aware of the potential of civil service in general, IAS in particular. I got opportunity to meet senior IAS officer Harish Chandra Sareen, who was then supposed to be sort of right-hand man of Prime Minister Indiraji. 3 different places. But Indiraji had sent him to handle the situation.
Where?
One was Kashmir. The other was this Assam, Bangladesh situation, Bangladeshi infiltrators. And the third was very explosive situation in Gujarat in May 1985. So all these three places. And I was able to meet him personally, talk with him.
May 95, Mrs. Gandhi had died.
85.
85.
May 85. She had died, but Harish Chandra Sarin was still sent as Prime Minister's emissary.
Okay. By Rajiv Gandhi.
By Rajiv ji. So that made me aware of the potential of IS. I thought if I have that same fire of Karyakarta of Bharat in my heart and the powers of IS officer, I would be able to serve better. That was my intention in appearing for exam. Once I cleared, I was from day one sure I am not going to spend the whole life there. My idea was to do collectorship because district happens to be the quintessential unit of India. Once you handle district, you know how the country runs in day-to-day terms.
Which cadre did you get?
I got Maharashtra cadre.
Home cadre.
Home cadre. And I was district magistrate Raigad. My idea was also to perform various administrative reforms which would ensure clean and efficient administration. But the idea was to do that, then leave and get back into various sort of original work I was doing. By the time I was DM Raigad, Chief Minister of Maharashtra sort of happily summoned me.
Who was the chief?
This was Manohar Joshi. He wanted me to handle the Chief Minister's office. So I did it for 1 year and then resigned. So my resignation is not a negative vote to civil service at all. My resignation is not under sort of people keep thinking that someone who leaves IAS, अच्छी हिंदी में वाक्य होगा किसको पागल कुत्ते ने काटा है. बट ऐसी बात नहीं है. सिविल सर्विस में पर्सनल रूप से मैं भी खुश था और बिना मांगे मुझे एक के बाद एक बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेदारी का दायित्व सौंपा गया. बट द होल आइडिया देन वाज गेट बैक इनटू पब्लिक लाइफ. सो लाइक आई सेड सम प्लान्स डिडंट वर्क.
Is it that you couldn't get along with
Not at
Mr.
all.
Manohar Joshi?
Not at all, absolutely not at all. In fact, since then, till he unfortunately passed away recently, we had a very close relationship. I would call it a family relationship, almost like father and son. So it is not that I could not get on.
So the Chief Minister of Maharashtra state is one of the most powerful in the country because it's one of the richest states in the country. So a Chief Minister's position is important. And to be working with the Chief Minister of Maharashtra is a privileged post. And you gave up when you were at the height of that.
Yeah.
Kyun?
The dreams of further work in education. Also like what I keep saying is some plans didn't work.
Such as?
That was to join politics. But I would prefer that to be thing of past. So that one, and my idea was to get into constructive work. My field, I always thought education is my field.
So politics, you fought as an independent against Suresh
Twice.
Kalmadi.
Yeah.
Right? So why as an independent? Why not join a political party? Because independent in Maharashtra, I don't know, Maharashtra politics, you could tell me whether that worked. Why is it that a political party didn't fit your agenda?
Yeah. Actually, it did fit. Maybe I didn't fit there. Or whatever, I mean, less said the
Jama
better.
nahi.
And less said the better.
Huh.
But with Kalmadi, these were, if I may say, the very BJP RSS people in Pune who did not like the decision of backing Kalmadi. They said we should rebel. They said you are sort of best face to do so. That was my intention of contesting the election. That was February 98. Then I had also filed for 99 election. And during that election, I had prepared a program and sent it to 23 leaders of all parties. From among them, Advani ji called me up and he said, whatever program you have said is our program. My promise, we will follow that, but withdraw from Pune. I accepted his suggestion. So I withdrew. That's it. No more sort of electoral politics.
Aam Aadmi Party didn't fit into your
Absolutely no.
scheme of things.
Not from day one. Then let me have this opportunity to say that I have always been very close to Anna Hazare. Right since he returned from army. So as back as 1977-78. I was the activist of this Pune-based educational organization. And we knew the kind of rural development initiative he had undertaken. And as Karyakartas, we were very close to him. After that, even in the service, whenever he undertook fasts, the Maharashtra administration knew my affinity with him. So they would tell me to go and convince Anna Hazare.
To break his fast.
Yeah, please break his fast. And all the time I would say, to the best of my abilities, I would convince you to reduce corruption. Points on which he is fasting are right. I would never tell Anna Hazare to withdraw his fast or whatever. This was even when I was still in the service. After I left, I started actually working with Anna Hazare. So there was a massive anti-corruption stir in 96-97, where the corruption by 2 ministers was exposed. They had to resign. I was very much a part of that. Then also when the right to information movement began, allow me to as politely, as humbly as possible to say that I am among those who stated that we need to, that we need to take this up. That we can't go on fighting corruption cases individually, each one. मेरे भी 50 जीवन काफ़ी नहीं रहेंगे, अन्ना हजारे जी के भी 50 जीवन काफ़ी नहीं रहेंगे. What we need is systems reform, and at the top we put was RTI. Right to RTI. So RTI became a part of that anti-corruption crusade and all. Actually, over a period of time, I sort of grew apart from the whole Anna Hazare movement.
Kyun?
Not that he was not genuinely working against corruption, but he was sort of ending up by being used by different political outfits.
Such as?
Every time, the one who would be in power and Anna's movement would be against them. So whoever would be in opposition would prop up Anna Hazare as a sort of savior or crusader, etc. I didn't think it was on the right path. So I chose to sort of wish the best but stay away.
What was it like when Anna Hazare got together with Yogendra Yadav, with Anupam Kher, with Ashutosh, with the entire Aam Aadmi Party and Mr. Kejriwal, of course, and the others? Do you think Anna got waylaid, or do you think that the others misused Anna?
From day one, my considered feel has been that he is being used. From day one, and this is what I have been telling Anna Hazare also, and that these are the people who will use you, but they have political agenda. Mark my words, they will end up by forming party, contesting elections and all. Up to a point of time, I used to also accompany Anna Hazare, even in India Against Corruption or the Ram Leela Maidan movement and all. I was part of those internal sort of meetings where plans about should we form a political party. My suggestion was we shouldn't.
Like Kiran Bedi and all were there.
Like Kiran Bedi and all were there.
She also didn't want.
Yeah, she also didn't want the party. So, almost with the sort of rise of Kejriwal, you may say, I decided to stay away.
Why do you think Anna Hazare was so taken in with Arvind Kejriwal initially, in spite of the advice which was given to him by people like you and Kiran Bedi and the others?
One thing could be I mean, to the best of his thinking also, he could have seen this as developing into an all India movement. So I remember even in 96, 97, we used to think of the JP movement as sort of role model. And I'm happy to say that as a Karyakarta, back between 75 to 77, I was also part of that JP movement as a young Karyakarta. So the whole idea was that anti-corruption movement begins in one place, but it becomes all India phenomenon, which then develops a genuine alternative, even in politics, which is supposed to be sort of clean, etc., etc. So that could have been the idea. So carrying the movement from here to now it goes to Delhi, and these are the people who have their base in Delhi. So Anna could have thought that yes, this is a chance to make an all India impact.
You know, when you were talking about corruption, let me come to the corruption of which everybody is looking at right now, which is scaring students, scaring parents of students who give their be-all and end-all to get into the UPSC. And now it's come to light, which people had been talking in hushed tones earlier, but now it has come to light that people have been gaming the system, using quotas, using caste card in this. How do you see it?
This has been a sad reality. I am afraid whatever system we design, there are always people who are past masters in jugaad. A good English description would be slipping through the fingers of the system. So the people who have this skill in properly finding out. So like if I have OBC reservation, but the creamy layer is applicable, then someone comes up and starts saying, although my parents make money in crores, I am not with my parents. Parents are divorced, so I don't have source of income, so I fit into the reserve category. And some such manipulations of the system. ये तो मैं सोचता हूँ कि चोर और पुलिस का ही खेल है कि चाहे जितना कानून हो और समझ लो कि पुलिस भी अपना कर्तव्य निभा रही है, फिर भी चोर हर वक्त नया नया रास्ता कुछ ढूंढने की कोशिश करता रहेगा. So this sort of playing the system. But what I am personally convinced is those who play the system and get into the system, like including civil services, I believe the ratio is very, very small.
Okay.
Some recent incidents have brought it to light that you get into the system on, say, handicapped category and then display yourself dancing, etc. becomes questionable. But let that not be the reason to think that like this is generalized and it is unfair to those who have really studied hard, developed merit and proven it in the civil service exam.
What do you have to say about the coaching centers, which some of them are dubious in the sense कि वो बताते हैं कि कैसे system को game करना है, और कैसे there are WhatsApp groups which tell you कि हम लोग ऐसे आए. There are former IAS people in that group who tell you, give you tips on how to game the system, and it borders on that semi-legal, legal, illegal sphere. Then there is, paper leaks and things which are happening also. So, what do you have to say to this? कि कहाँ पे इसको stem कर सकते हैं?
एक तो unfortunately, most of so-called coaching centers, they are pure business, essentially after money. What I am saying very clearly is, hardly anyone talks about character building and that this is service to people, that this is not just a job, ये नौकरी नहीं है.
Civil services.
हाँ, या तुम्हारी बड़ी कार हो या बंगलो हो या you sit in positions of power and then power goes to head, ये लोक सेवा है. तो मेरी तरफ से जो हो रहा है काम मैं कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन सच्चाई में जानता हूँ कि ज़्यादातर तो इसको एक पैसे कमाने का साधन मानते हैं, चरित्र निर्माण की बात नहीं करते हैं, व्यवस्था परिवर्तन की भी बात नहीं करते हैं. These are some of the things we are recently, unfortunately, very sadly seeing happen in, say, old Rajendra Nagar in Delhi and many other places. I am afraid the root is in the very design of the system, that we are still continuing essentially the system that the British designed. Now, the British design was intended to exploit India, and civil servants then were supposed to be rulers. That ruler mentality has still not gone. That we are servants of the people. And as modern, say, democratic nation called India, that we should actually be proud to serve common people. That ethos has not come there. There are no requisite systemic changes to bring it about, or there are no what has to go into making of character. So if we are thinking of what are the changes that are required, the core should be the one that makes civil services directly answerable to people, so that administration is more transparent, more clean, not more, clean. People's work is done on time, and 10 बार 20 बार लोगों को आना नहीं पड़े. तो ये जो पावर करप्ट्स एंड एब्सोल्यूट पावर करप्ट्स एब्सोल्यूटली, ये जो सेंस है, उसकी जगह इथॉस आना जरूरी है कि ये लोक सेवा का क्षेत्र है.
When you were in the IAS, did it occur to you then कि ना तो IAS में you are finding the satisfaction and you were dissatisfied even with the political class at that stage? Is it that dissatisfaction from both?
Not at all at personal level. At personal level, I was very happy as IAS officer. If there are tiffs with politicians, they were only issue based. At personal level, I am happy to tell you that my sort of personal affinity with various political groups, say in Maharashtra, or at one point of time I had also opportunity to work in Delhi, although it was after my resignation. But my sort of, you can say, connections, friendly ones. So it's not I picked up a fight with some individual politicians. So it's not I was unsatisfied in the service, inside the system, so I left. While I am aware of the limitations, I left to start work in education. I thought at a more fundamental level I would be working. Like I said, as an officer, I kept getting better opportunities.
You
always.
joined the Shiv Sena and you left within 2 years. And I have a quote here which says, which you said, today's politics is so corrupt that changing it while working within a political party is not possible.
Yeah.
That was in 2009.
Yeah. 9.
Do you still have that view that you cannot change a political party, that the problems that you saw then continue to be there today?
Yes, problems are there still today. Although I personally believe that things are changing for the better. Probably with the passage of time, you set yourself for a particular course of life. So now I'm fully into education. That 2009 thing also, I had opportunity of personal discussion with Uddhav Thackeray. That connection was there even when I was in the service, even when I was secretary to CM. The whole idea was inputs for policy measures. What should the party do for youth, unemployment, say development of education, how should we modernize, what are the changes that are coming up, and what do we do to ensure, let me say especially, the educational system to be made world class. Those were my discussions with him. So the idea, even I thought that by joining Shiv Sena, I would be participating this policy making function. That I saw not happening for like 2.5 years. So I decided there is no point पड़े रहने में, कि यहाँ आके पड़े रहने में. It is better I leave
Hmm.
and focus entirely on education.
What was your view about the split that happened in the Shiv Sena? Who do you think, कौन है असली उत्तराधिकारी बाल ठाकरे के विजन का?
Tricky question, and I will have to enter into some sort of political analysis. So, when Uddhav Thackeray was Chief Minister, in Maharashtra's political scene, NCP was growing at the cost of Shiv Sena. और ज़मीन पर काम करने वाले जो MLAs भी हों, they knew that actually Shiv Sena MLA space is reducing. They were always in contact with Eknath Shinde. So actually the day he left, my first sentence was, he might have actually saved Shiv Sena. So answering in a very sort of one-line way, whose Shiv Sena is true one, I repeat, tricky question, difficult one. What I'm going to say is, at the end of the day, let people decide.
What do you have to think about the MVA? Was it a mistake?
I think it was a mistake, yes. 2019. Shiv Sena and BJP had contested on a common manifesto. So their promises to people were also together. And after the election to come up and say, join hands with Congress and NCP, I do think it was a major political mistake, which unfortunately has made Maharashtra pay a heavier cost.
How do you say Maharashtra pay a heavy
Yeah.
cost?
It created...
Not a political party, but Maharashtra
They
state.
may have paid their own. Personally, I am less or least concerned with the price that parties may have
Correct.
paid. I am concerned about
State.
people, the instability in governance immediately begins to adversely affect the developmental process. And everything turns into sort of party politicking. So if businesses begin to leave Maharashtra, new investments begin to dry up, and everyone starts pointing finger at the other, irrespective of who is pointing the finger, etc., that development of Maharashtra suffers has been a lesson for last 5 years. So I am convinced it was a mistake.
A question that I asked was the role of Savarkar, since we are doing this podcast in Maharashtra. He has become a controversial figure. Everybody has a different take on the contribution of Savarkar. Is he an idol? Is he not an idol for Maharashtrians? Is he an idol for Indians? Should he be an idol for Indians? And is there an insult which is happening into Savarkar's memory these days?
You said Savarkar has become controversial. I'll just slightly modify the grammar. Savarkar has been made into a controversial deliberately. And the way discussions take place is a clear insult to everything Savarkar was and everything he stood for. The man who completely dedicated his life in the totally selfless way, organized even armed struggle against the British, paid the price by spending over a decade at Andaman. Actually, all those who unfairly criticize Savarkar, to them I have always been saying that you read his autobiographical account at Andaman first. Its Marathi name is Majhi Janma Tape. So my years at Andaman. And if you disagree with, say, his ideology, etc., it is okay because we are democracy. In fact, I know that not only that we are politically a democracy, Indian civilization is democratic. So all kinds of expressions of opinion are welcomed. But you want to disagree, it is still okay. But at least honor his dedication, his creativity. Everything Savarkar touched is great. So he is a great writer, a great poet, a great dramatist, a great social reformer. The man who analyzed caste system, and his solution is same as Ambedkar's solution, that now Hindu society needs to annihilate castes and that we are all one. He advocated for scientific temper. So, like everything he did, organizing freedom struggle, at least respect that. And as to the Hindutva ideology, I don't know whether we are discussing that right now, but I do want to say that the way he has defined it, there is nothing communal in it. There is no hatred for any other community, including Muslims, etc. There is innate pride for what is Indian civilization, which has a continuous history of like over 5,000 years, more than 5,000 years over here. But because he picked up the term Hindutva, जिनको लगता है कि reject everything Hindu and then you are secular, यह भी व्याख्या ही गलत है. मैं तो कहना चाहता हूँ कि मेरी चुनौती है, जो चाहे डिस्कस करना चाहे कि सावरकर की हिंदुत्व की भी व्याख्या क्या है, और मैं बताऊँगा कि उसमें किसी भी पंथ हो, मज़हब हो, इसके प्रति किसी तरह का कोई द्वेष भाव नहीं है. सावरकर इज़ अ ग्रेट फिगर, also a role model even for modern times. Let me tell you, Savarkar wanted India as democratic republic based on one person, one vote. That is written record, original one. And many of my close friends have actually dedicated their life to studying Savarkar. Their books are also very well known. Now Vikram Sampath has done a great job in coming up with these 2 volumes, which will do away with all kinds of misconceptions about Savarkar. Finally, it gets down, I'm going to tell you one very interesting kissa, but it gets down to finally politics. So, what Savarkar said is inconvenient and uncomfortable for some political outfits. It is they who create all kinds of misconceptions. But let me tell you, not one alphabet about the kind of criticism against Savarkar is true. Maharashtra had a great socialist leader. He is also referred to as S.M. Joshi, and we used to call him Anna. I knew him personally very closely, like family closeness. And then Maharashtra had a great music composer, singer who was also a social activist, who also worked for Goa Mukti. So I am talking of Sudhir Phadke. Sudhir Phadke is called Babuji in Maharashtra. Sudhir Phadke also composed music for some Hindi movies also. One of his loveliest song is Jyoti Kalash Chalke, is by Sudhir Phadke.
Lata Mangeshkar
sung by Lata Mangeshkar. We have to do like this. We talk of Lata ji, it's like this.
Advani ji said that it's his favorite song.
Yeah. Oh, that I didn't know. Huh? So I'm not quoting this because Advani ji said it is his favorite song. Beautiful song. It's from the movie on Sant Jnaneshwar.
Yeah.
Again, a very inspiring story from Maharashtra. So, Babuji and S.M. Anna were on the same dais. And S.M. Anna said, Savarkar before 1923 is acceptable to us. Savarkar after 1923 is not acceptable. This meeting was happening in mid-60s. So what he is indicating is Savarkar wrote the book Hindutva in the year 1923. So S.M. Anna is saying Savarkar before 1923 is acceptable. Savarkar after 1923 is not acceptable. Okay. Babuji said, it is after 40 years that you have started saying Savarkar before 1923 is acceptable. So 40 years from now on, you will understand what was Savarkar after 1923 and begin to then accept.
Which is now.
And not one alphabet of any kind of charge against Savarkar is true at all.
Let's come back to the civil service. When this kind of instability happens, like एक party जाता है, दूसरी party आता है, एक chief minister जाता है, दूसरा chief minister आता है, एक coalition जाता है, दूसरा coalition आता है, एक coalition में 3 party है, उसके दूसरे coalition में 2 party है, unstable government in power. How does the civil service do this? Because loyalties go one way or the other. We saw intense level of corruption and intense level of khichatani happening in the police service in this state. everybody knows what all happened.
yeah.
So the breakdown of the system has been happening for quite a few years in this state. What do you think is the solution?
During MVA government, my batchmate was chief secretary. And then he or other civil servants had a tiff with some ministers. So they approached chief secretary. He said, just wait for a while. This government is not lasting another, say, 2 months. Somehow that comment went viral. And many ministers criticized him and were asking for his blood. That didn't happen. But what did happen is that government did collapse in those 2 months. The point is, with unstable government, files either stop moving or their movement slows down. Like CM says, I want this done in 3 months. And the civil servants think he is not going to be there for 3 months. So they won't be burning midnight all to ensure that files move at a faster pace. This is what I mean when I say that development suffers. You were asking me solution. I want to say I have the solution. I know that someone may call it idealistic, etc., but that is how our constitution also is designed. The solution is in civil service, having loyalty to none other than people, and loyalty to people as defined in our constitution. So the civil servants are not supposed to be and should not be loyal to a particular political party or especially a certain particular political leader. They should be loyal to none other than people and as enshrined in our constitution. That is the answer.
If you look at the 2024 elections, why do you think that the Mahayuti did not perform as well as people expected it to?
Yeah. As usual, when such complex and seemingly unexpected things happen, it's always a combination of variety of factors. Among them, I would put sort of overconfidence at number one.
By who? Which
BJP
party?
leadership. Or taking people for granted.
Overconfidence is 400 par. That slogan or more than the slogan?
More than the slogan. कि वैसे भी हम जीत ही रहे हैं. And they neglected the core voter. The attitude was as if तुम कहाँ जाओगे? वोट दोगे तो किसको दोगे? तुम तो हमको ही वोट दोगे ना? And I do want to place it on record here also that I'm not saying this today. I used to be in Delhi for like 4 months a year for last 6 years. So this year, in say April, I was in Delhi and I put this comment in social media that BJP leadership is showing overconfidence. It is taking voter for granted. Voter doesn't like it. You need to explain what government has done. And I believe the track record was excellent. That should have been presented.
Messaging was wrong, track record was good.
Yeah.
In 2024?
Yes.
Okay. As compared to 2019?
No. My personal conviction is 2014 onwards, India is entering a new age. My personal conviction is largely, yes, there are some problems, but as a nation we are doing well and on the right track. So I won't compare two governments, 2014 or 2019.
Okay, but just 2024.
Yeah, yeah.
So you were also warning that things are not going on track for the Mahayuti.
Yeah.
When was it a sympathy vote which Uddhav Thackeray got? Was it a sympathy vote that Sharad Pawar got?
I don't think it is sympathy vote. Unfortunately, if it is more about Maharashtra, one is there was a substantial sort of polarization on caste lines. That is a very sad part of scene in Maharashtra right now. It really pains my heart. And the other was strategic voting by Muslims. It is now seen that Muslims voted for the candidate who would beat BJP candidate. And even Uddhav Thackeray's Shiv Sena received thumping support from Muslim voter. Actually, that was one of the reasons why just 2 days ago,
That Muslim voter has never voted for Shiv Sena
Yeah.
or the BJP.
but this time with Uddhav's Shiv Sena. When this Waqf board modifications came up, Uddhav Thackeray's Shiv Sena members remained absent in Sansad.
Yes.
So Muslims in Mumbai felt agitated.
Because they had voted for Uddhav.
Yeah. So they took a morcha to Uddhav Shiv Sena office. Now you are betraying us. So Maharashtra scene, I am going to say, is worrisome and painful. If you analyze the Lok Sabha elections, there is reason to say that Eknath Shinde Shiv Sena won the traditional Shiv Sena basis. So
वो कहाँ का सीट्स हैं?
जैसे कि ठाणे उनका अपना है, या जो भी 5 या 6 है उनको सीट्स, those are traditionally Shiv Sena strongholds.
They retained that.
They retained that.
And they will retain that for the state election also?
Again, Maharashtra scene is right now so complex.
See, caste you spoke about, right? That Samvidhan badal denge. That played a very major role in many states.
Yeah.
In Maharashtra also it played a role?
I'm not sure about that.
You're not sure?
No. But at the national level again, this narrative should have been properly answered. Like for example, those days I thought, if the opposition saying ये संविधान बदल देंगे, तो एक तरफ तो या तो कहना चाहिए था कि हाँ बदलने का सवाल नहीं है, आर्टिकल 44 पे अमल करना है, यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड, which was a part of the manifesto. Or what should have been pointed out is Rahul Gandhi saying India is not a nation, it's a union of states. This was a program in Cambridge. The clips are there still on YouTube. And Rahul Gandhi says India is not a nation, we are just a union of states. To his misfortune, there was a young UPSC successful person sitting there. So in Q&A he raised hand and he said, you said India is not a nation and you referred to Article 1 of the Constitution. He said, if only you had turned one page, the preamble ends by saying we are a nation. So the leader who says we are not a nation at all, that should have been brought to people's notice. Or Rahul Gandhi sitting like this with Samvidhan, that narrative should have been answered. Like that the book he was holding looks more like Mao's red book than our constitution. So whose game are we playing? For example, there have been clear reports about foreign intervention in our elections. Until 4th of June, I thought it seems this time they have been successfully repulsed. But unfortunately what transpired on 4th of June is no, those forces seem to have worked.
You think there was foreign interference?
Of course, yes, there was.
Why?
And now there are well-studied reports also there. You can say sort of anti-Modi, anti-BJP ideological predilections. Or the overall global politics, including global geopolitics. What is happening in Bangladesh right now is also a notice to India. And then look at the kind of statements that supposedly responsible political leaders are saying. Like Salman Khurshid comes up and says, the same should happen in India. People's uprising.
He said it could happen in India.
But is it a signal? And what are you saying? Is our democracy not genuine democracy? Where elections not genuine elections? Through a proper democratic part, isn't Narendra Modi now the leader of the country, including leader of Sansad? Suddenly say it could. He said it could. There is one MP in Maharashtra, he said it should. It should. He's actually, as translated in Hindi or English, his sentence will be, the way Bangladeshi people made Sheikh Hasina Wajed run away, we should make Narendra Modi run away. I am questioning, is that democracy?
He's in our country, there is freedom of speech. So do you, and you mentor students who take the UPSC exam.
Yes, yeah.
Do you feel that this ये जो statement महाराष्ट्र में कहा गया, क्या ये वो अभिव्यक्ति की what is it called, freedom of speech in Hindi, I don't exactly know what it is, अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी I think it's called. Do you feel that वो लांघता है उसको, does it go beyond freedom of speech?
Yeah. I am absolute advocate of freedom of speech to the extent that it can be absolute. I am supporter of freedom of speech. मैं कहूँगा इस तरह से बोलना शोभा नहीं देता है कि जो खुद सांसद है, चाहे आपका राजनीतिक विरोध जो भी है, उसकी एक शालीनता है, उसकी एक ग्रेस है, उस आधार पर आपको जो कहना है कह लो. Freedom of speech, I would not go for curtailment of freedom of speech. I believe freedom of speech is a necessary condition for development of civilization, for development of creativity. I will not suggest any kind of restricting freedom of speech.
Okay. When you mentor your students, what do you teach them about the Indian political system? Because more and more I meet the youth, they are disillusioned with the system. They are disillusioned with the political class, with the media. They feel that the media is as corrupt, if not more, than the political class. You've been a journalist, you've been a civil servant, you've been a politician. You've been all three. Do you also hold the same view that that it's beyond repair?
No, I don't think it is beyond repair. I think things can happen. ज़माने से हिंदी में एक बहुत अच्छा शेर कहा जाता है कि कौन कहता है आसमान में सुराग नहीं है, तबीयत से एक पत्थर तो उछालो यारो. Think of the recent Pooja Khedkar thing. How did it start out really? There was a 22-year-old boy who noticed that IAS probationer traveling in personal car has a lamp at the top of the car and a board displaying Maharashtra Shasan. All that he did is take a photograph, post it on social media, raising a question, how can IAS probationer be? That became the starting point. तो कौन कहता है आसमान में सुराग नहीं होगा, but एक तबीयत तो उछालो. So it finally comes down to us also. But I don't think the system or the situation is beyond repair. I believe it can be repaired. I believe in last 10 years there are many places where step by step it is being prepared. But if we go to the core question of corruption and inefficiency in the system, so corruption in all walks of, that is a sad reality, yes. That is a sad reality. We need to work against it. इस देश में सब कुछ बेचने के लिए खुला है. यहाँ तक कि जो घुसपैठिए होंगे उनका आधार कार्ड तबीयत से बन जाता है, आराम से बन जाता है, और जो खुद इस देश के नागरिक हों उन्हीं को इसमें तकलीफ हो सकती है. दैट इज़ अ पेनफुल रियलिटी वी नीड टू वर्क ऑन. सो करप्शन saps our national energy. And there needs to be a genuine effort not only to reduce corruption but wipe out corruption from our public life and from our private life also.
You are saying this, but I increasingly hear people saying that there's a reason why corruption is not an issue anymore while casting vote. People vote in completely corrupt politicians who everybody knows that they are corrupt. People vote them as compared to an honest or seemingly honest politician who's also fighting the election, because they say corruption to hai hi, it's endemic to India. There is a gradual acceptance that isko to hata hi nahi sakte, ye to part and parcel hai. Kaun, if you actually see the election commission ka rules, who is fighting an election as per the amount of money that the election commission says?
At least one thing I can say is I did.
You yourself got beaten by the system because you didn't.
But I am among those who got maximum votes as independent candidates. And I was the richest candidate that year, formally, officially. The expenditure limit then was 15 lakh. people gave me 13.5 lakh.
I'll give a quote to the audiences, to the viewers. You had said at that time, when during the elections, you said it's very tiring. We don't have money for cars and things, so we walk 30 to 35 kilometers a day, addressing dozens of corner meetings.
Yeah.
ये हाल है.
Yeah.
Because if you see the 2024 इलेक्शंस, मतलब जब कॉन्वॉय चलता है तो अगर 20 लोगों की गाड़ी है तो उसको वोट नहीं मिलने वाला है. एटलीस्ट 50 कार्स हैव टू बी देयर इन द कॉन्वॉय. कहाँ पे वो इलेक्शन कमीशन रूल्स के अंडर आ रहे हैं?
Yeah. So I'll say two things on this overall. One is, unfortunately, yes, people have come to a conclusion that किसी भी पार्टी हो, कोई भी नेता हो, करप्शन हर जगह पे है.
हाँ.
सिर्फ राजनीति क्यों, करप्शन आप जैसे कह रही थी, मीडिया में भी है. बहुत दुर्भाग्य की बात है कि शिक्षा में भी है, एजुकेशनल सेक्टर. सो देयर इज नो वॉक ऑफ आवर लाइफ which is now you can say free of corruption. So yes, this is a sad reality. So I think what the voter thinks is कि अगर सभी करप्ट है तो कम से कम मैं जो मेरा करप्ट है उसको वोट करूंगा.
मेरा करप्ट बोले तो जाति,
या तो जाति हो सकती है, या इंटरेस्ट हो सकते हैं, या द पॉलिटिकल आइडियोलॉजी दैट यू सब्सक्राइब टू, और द पॉलिटिकल लीडर दैट यू आर कन्विंस्ड दैट ओके India needs to be led by so and so, or Maharashtra needs to be led by so and so. So I know there is corruption. But the second point I do want to make, it is a deeper point. Allow me to say that corruption is a integral part of democracy all over the world. I'm not justifying this. I'm saying the roots are there in the very form called democracy. कि in democracy there will be parties, there will be elections, and elections are to be fought to win. So as long as we don't deal with the problem of campaign finance, how do you raise money for politics in an honest way? How do you spend it? How do you ensure that it is transparent? How do you submit accounts, etc.? Otherwise, democracy in Japan also is corrupt. Democracy in France, Germany, etc. is corrupt. So it is a deeper problem that thinkers, as a small karyakarta, I also accept that as my responsibility also. So unless that deeper problem is solved, there will be this corruption. Unfortunately, sometimes some people are going to get killed, which has happened in recent days. इतनी दुख दर्द भरी बातें जब होंगी तो 2-4 दिन के लिए कुछ शो होगा, करने का दिखावा होगा, and it is back to square one.
As an educationist, you still believe that democracy is the only way that India can adopt, and that our democracy is the best that we have and we can have, or is there room for changes? Because
there is room for change.
Because the opposition says that right now we don't have democracy. What we have is an autocracy. So tell me, what is your view as an...
Opposition is saying that because they don't have power right now. So it's not that we don't have democracy. What they mean to say is we don't have power. We are not sitting, people have not voted us. So just because you lose the election, you start questioning democracy, start calling it autocracy. I find it hypocritical and even objectively speaking not true at all. But when I am talking of the form democracy, there are problems. The solution is not in having less democracy, the solution is in having more democracy.
Okay.
The solution is in requisite reforms in democracy, sort of system changes. Or some new contribution to even political thinking in democracy, and like Indian democracy should come up with newer institutions. I think of one essay written by E.M. Foster. That was, the quip was also repeated by Churchill.
Passage to India?
No, Passage to India is his beautiful novel. Foster said the title of his essay was 2 Cheers to Democracy. So it's not 3 cheers. There are innate problems in democracy. We need to work on them. Churchill's quote is, democracy is the worst form except that the better one is not available. So what we need is evolution, some modifications in democracy. I would say the genuine Indian civilizational element getting into the democratic structure will show us the answers.
Do you think democracy is under threat in the current dispensation that we have? This is what the opposition says. That
Again, absolutely no. Absolutely. It is the same argument is like saying if BJP wins, there is a fault with EVM. And then by afternoon of 4th of June, you see that BJP is not scoring that much, or NDA, then yes, then election was honest, and this is a fallacious argument.
No, they're not saying elections are honest. They said despite the EVM, we have got...
After that, after the results, not one opposition leader has raised any question about EVM. But setting the narrative as if BJP wins, there is some fault with EVM. If BJP loses, then okay. This itself is setting a very deceptive narrative.
You work with students quite a bit with your foundation and with mentoring many students. Do you feel that the students understand the Maharashtra reservation movement, the cause? Do they understand the complexities? Do they also want to figure out how to game the system?
Whatever small work I am doing, I want to say again as politely as possible that I ensure that the message goes right. So first of all, those who join Chanakya Mandal, they are not joining seeking a job or gaming the system, etc. They are joining with a clear conviction that civil service is service to people, service to the nation. In spite of that, could there be someone who is still sort of seeking only guidance to clear the exam? But once joining, maybe उसी धारा में बहते जाओ, पता नहीं, और इस पर मैं कोई 100% assurance नहीं कहूँगा. But the second part of your question, do the youth understand complexities or social situation and demands for reservation and all? There I am sorry that I have to say that there is some sort of worried confusion. So I can't say there is crystal clarity about what are the issues, but there is a deep sense of worry as to what is happening to social cohesion in Maharashtra or various reservation demands, etc. Where does this path lead? There is a deep sense of worry among the youth.
In Maharashtra, the other issue which the entire country wonders is about farmer suicides. It still continues even now. What is the solution to this, and why is it that political parties don't make it their number one agenda? Because it is the most shocking thing that a rich state like Maharashtra, farmers commit suicide.
In our initial part of interaction, I told you my sense of happiness for having been a part of farmers' movement before joining IS. That was under the visionary leadership of Sharad Joshi. I am convinced with the economics he was telling that remunerative prices for agricultural goods will go a great distance in controlling farmers' suicides. So we need the pricing policy for agricultural produce. And then this is a very painful and a complex issue, but no single track answer is there. At a point of time, I had made one suggestion to government of Maharashtra. That was to start a helpline. Any farmer who thinks he is in trouble, his family is in trouble, maybe he is not able to repay the loan and whatnot, call that number. And there should be governments, counselors, well trained, who should then at personal level discuss with that farmer, maybe repackage the loan, make it softer one, make the time frame better one, also pump more capital for that farmer so that the farmer can stand on one's own feet, etc. I just don't know why the helpline has not been set. But I believe that may reduce suicides. Suicide again is a very complex issue. Sometimes people fall into depression and end up by doing something that harms themselves. But psychology says that in such a situation also, talking to someone who trusts you helps that person get out of that depression. So that social system needs to be set there. They will substantially reduce or practically bring it to zero. Now the profile has changed. Now it's more rural students who come up. Caste profiles also have changed, and say the original चातुर्वर्ण में जो द्विज है अभी उनका प्रमाण कम है सिविल सर्विस में आने का, तो अन्य सारी जातियां भी अब आती हैं. Those sections of our society who so far didn't have opportunity, they are getting that opportunity. So less of urban and more of rural students, they are coming.
And if students who come from rural backgrounds make it to the civil services, do you think that that is one step towards resolving our agrarian crisis, rural crisis on a national level? State level pe to hai, but on a national level, will that help?
That will help, but I'm going to say partially. When they have direct experience of how poor or rural people actually live, then when they get into administration and rise in the ranks to make policy, that grassroots level experience will help them. So like, again I want to take this opportunity to again say, and again as politely as possible, that if in the service I were a good officer, that is because of 11 years of the work I did before joining IS. Part of that work was various rural development projects. And we have built roads. मैंने सर पे बोझ उठा के श्रम कार्य में हिस्सा लिया है और इस पर मुझे आनंद है कि IAS होने से पहले ये सब किया है. या जो निर्धूर चूल्हा, smokeless chula. So we learnt it, and then with village women we would sit by their side and build that smokeless chula for them. That is a direct contribution to improving the health of rural women. So that experience has helped me become a better officer also. So in that sense, yes, if rural people join the civil service.
What do you have to say to civil servants who on superannuating, without that grace period or time period, they join politics immediately, or they use the last 2 years to get very close to the political bosses and then join the political party. So their entire decision making for the last 2 years, their secretaryship, when they are secretaries or just move from additional secretary to secretary, they become, the decisions they take in that time period is obviously clouded, because if they join the political party immediately, that means that they had inclinations.
Yeah.
That closeness to power, that differentiation which should be there, ceases to exist. एक curtain होता है, वो they have gone past that. How do you see that?
Credibility पे सवाल उठेंगे, ये पक्का है. On paper there is no rule that says that after resignation you should spend this much of time before you join a political party, etc. It's about following the proper norms. Like I'm again saying politely, that if I wanted to join politics, I have resigned first and then talked about it. And then anyone who wants to say my decisions are open for any investigation. And if they point out a finger that you took a particular decision because your plan was to join politics later on, I will take the blame. But that process has happened because I fought against that government also on corruption issue. But as to the larger issue of civil servants joining a particular political party immediately on resignation, raises questions about credibility.
When students come to you and join your organization, what is the choice that they want to make? Do they want to join the civil services, or do they see civil services as a path to joining politics? No.
Almost all of them seek to join as civil service. Hardly one or two in 29 years. I resigned and started this work. Now we are into the 29th year. Hardly one person
Say that politics mein jana hai.
Later on. He had political ambitions and all. But otherwise no. Most of them, like 99.99%, join my organization to prepare for civil services.
What do you have to say to those several institutes which have opened up where hundreds of students are learning offline classes and there's like lakhs of rupees that parents spend, students take loans to take the UPSC exam. Why is getting into the UPSC such a prized job that everybody wants to do, and is it worth it, the kind of money that people pay to do these courses from these institutes?
Now, prize job, again as usual, a package of reasons, but sort of IAS still carries a lot of status, prestige. Once you join the civil service, it's a stable job. It's assured income also. I hope they are not joining to make a fast buck under the table, or unfortunately it's no more even under the table, it is brazenly even over the table. Such people should not join at all. They are enemies of the country, enemies of democracy, they are enemies of the people. But because the job still carries status and all, then if you genuinely join, then yes, it's an opportunity to serve people. That's what I keep saying. Unfortunately, those who guide youngsters, they have turned this into a money-making proposition. Something we were discussing a while ago also. And then entice the students, then print their photographs also, claiming that we guided them, etc. I have this informal information that sometimes some classes pay a successful UPSC aspirant to only say this sentence, that I received coaching from so and so. So that is all absolutely foul. Therefore, allow me to say, I will repeat, I am saying this politely, but it's a printed promise in my prospectus that nobody will be denied admission on account of inability to pay the fees. And hundreds of such students have taken education at Chanakya Mandal without paying even a 0 rupee. They have gone on to be IAS officers. I am happy to say that they have developed into fine IAS officers. I keep telling them and the society that fees at Chanakya Mandal is twofold. It is to be paid in 2 installments. First installment is the course is to be done properly, with discipline, commitment and all. I will come to that point again. Second installment is, on succeeding, you have to be clean and efficient. My term is Karyakarta Adhikari. That is my fee. That मैं देश का कार्यकर्ता हूँ और सिविल सर्विस में भी भारत माता की सेवा करने के लिए जा रहा हूँ. यह हमारा शुल्क, फी है हमारा. And then as to the first part, कि course is to be done properly. For any course at Chanakya Mandal, on day 1, first thing we teach is meditation. First thing. So our sessions start with meditation and end with a prayer. That prayer also happens to be my Marathi poem. I wrote the night I became IAS officer. Is what kind of officer I want to be. Again, allow me to just quote 2 lines from that.
Sure.
It is, जरी एक अश्रू पुसायास आला, तरी जन्म काहीच कामास आला. When will I say that I lived a worthwhile life? If I wipe tears from even one weeping eye, then I will say I lived a worthwhile life. So including civil service, किस लिए ज्वाइन करना है? तो जो दुखी हैं उनके आंसू पोंछने के लिए करना है, जो शोषित है उनका शोषण दूर करने के लिए करना है, न कि मेरा पैसा, मेरी कीर्ति, मेरी सत्ता, मेरे अधिकार, ये सब बाय प्रोडक्ट है. तो मुख्य ध्येय ये रहेगा. सो आई मीन द टर्म इज कार्यकर्ता अधिकारी. हर अधिकारी, विशेषकर IAS, जिस दिन इस भाव से काम करना शुरू करेंगे कि न सत्ता का पे अहंकार है, पद का एक्सेट्रा, कि मैं देश का कार्यकर्ता हूँ, तो उसके लिए हमारा शब्द है कार्यकर्ता अधिकारी. जिसको वो बनना है वही आ जाए यहाँ पे.
Interesting. On that note, thank you so much for sparing the time
Thank
and
you.
speaking to us. And we hope to meet more IAS officers with such elevated thoughts, I would think, and committed to serving this nation.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for watching or listening to this edition of the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. Do like or subscribe on whichever channel you have seen this or heard this. Namaste. Jai Hind. Click here to watch the previous episodes.